This episode of the Off-Road Podcast is sponsored by Warren Medical Gear Outfitters and Colby Valve.
Off-Road Podcast, episode 413. It's Tent Talk.
Tonight, Aaron shoots his shot. Coy goes full stop, and Ben's wife leaves him again.
Welcome to the Off-Road Podcast, a podcast about everything off-road. We cover the news, review products, and interview people in the off-road industry. Your hosts tonight are A.A. Ron, Coy, and my name is Ben, and welcome to the show. So,
Hey guys.
I gotta figure this out, Aaron. How'd you shoot your shot?
Shot my shot yesterday. I skipped church and I went to a shooting competition.
So you cheated there?
Of course, I cheated every shooting competition, according to all my friends. Anyways, yeah. So it was a competition. Chad from Gunning Gear Review Podcast, which is also on the Firearms Radio Network.
Yep, he shoots
Chad
regularly, so he beat you.
Chad usually beats me. I beat Chad this year. So this is the second year they've done this competition. Last year, obviously, was the first year, and I went last year. They had 67, I think, people, 67, 68 people last year, and I came in, I think, 23rd last year. This year, they were down on numbers. They only had 43, so 2/3 of them. So I was like, yeah, I'll be in the top 30 again, no problem. And I came in third place, which absolutely shocked me.
All right, so obviously Chad has gotten too old and he needs to retire from shooting.
Well, Chad has been old forever.
Exactly.
As everybody jokes about his age.
He is now officially a geriatric shooter. He needs to go to the old person's league.
A different class.
I would say, have we checked for timing error? Like, I mean,
yeah,
we've gone through and checked any of your shoots and been like, wow, I did this whole shot series or whatever it's called panel in 1 second. Wow, it's pretty good, you know. Stage, that was the word I'm looking at. Yeah, I did this whole stage in 2 seconds. Interesting.
No, it's crawling with people. So like the range officers, I think there's at least 3 on every stage. And as soon as you're done shooting, they get a time from when you shot, and then they walk up to the targets and they deduct, or I guess they add time for every miss that you have. And the whole 6 things, I had only 2. One was a miss and one was just not in the A zone. It was in the C zone, which is just outside of the A zone. I don't know why
there's no. He walks up and he tells somebody what your time was.
They walk together. They walk the targets together. They count them together. They encourage you to walk with them in case you've got any discrepancies. And then they show you on the tablet, this is your time. Do you agree to it? And you have to hit the yes button. So
clearly there was another Samuelson there and they got you two mixed up.
No, there wasn't. There was no other errands or nothing. So yeah, they call you up by name and you shoot by name.
How much did you pay them?
I didn't pay them anything. I mean, it costs money to enter it, but there was no extra pay.
So third place is pretty good. You know, I'd be happy with that. I mean, obviously, two people beat the daylights out of you, but I mean, you beat 30-something people.
If I didn't have those 2 penalties added up to 32 seconds, I would have come in second place. Although the second place also had at least one. He had 1 30-second penalty. I don't think he had any other penalties. So if he didn't have his penalty, he would have still come in second. Neither second place or me, if you would erase all of our penalties, would have taken first place. The first place shooter was 45 seconds faster than me after you deduct my 32 seconds of penalties. It's insane that he was a minute and 20 some odd seconds faster.
Well, clearly he practices.
Yeah.
He competes at a higher level, obviously.
Yeah. I got to say though, also, I did all that with like standard stuff. Like my AR that I shot with, I was using a scope, not a red dot this time. I was using an LPVO 1:8. So that adds weight. Not only does it add weight, but I just didn't want to take it off, put a red dot on, then when you get home, take the red dot off, sight that gun in, put the LPVO on, sight that gun back in. So I shot with my LPVO this year. And then my pistol is just a standard pistol. It has no trigger work or anything. I changed the slide, but the only thing that I did, it's a factory SIG slide that I bought for it. I changed the slide so I could add taller sights to it. And it came red dot ready, so I've added a red dot. So that's the only changes I've made is the slide and the red dot and taller sights. There's no I don't have an aftermarket barrel. I don't have fancy magazines. I don't have a Magwell flare.
So clearly what you're trying to say is you cheated and that you can also go out with standard equipment and win. Or at least
the way he's explaining this reminds me of like the car guys back in the day, but like this Nissan 240 that I just smoked you, and it's totally stock. Well, I mean, I changed the motor to a Skyline. It's a stock Skyline motor, but wheels, tires. I mean, it has a 6-speed instead of the. But limited slip diff, and then I have giant Mickey Thompson slicks. But other than that, it's the chassis, the body, totally stock. I mean, plus the cage, and I've gutted it. But other than that, stock, totally stock.
Yeah. No,
it's like my Tesla with no seats or anything in it except for the bucket seats, and
I literally, it's the same gun I purchased with a red dot on it. I've only added a red dot. Yes, I changed the slide, but it's not a fancy. There's nothing fancy about the slide to make it perform any different.
Well, I jest a lot with you, Aaron, but that's a really cool accomplishment, something to hang your hat on.
Yeah,
I'm proud of you. You should be proud of yourself. Congratulations.
Thank you. You guys haven't asked me what I won, because third place you got to win something like first, second, third, right?
Bragging rights on Chad.
Yeah, that's all I won. Only the first place winner wins something, and they win a gun. This year, the gun that they won was a Smith & Wesson M&P 22 pistol. So it was an AR 22 pistol with no brace or anything.
Disappointing.
I wouldn't have been. It in my opinion, that's kind of a really pathetic prize. So whatever. I'm assuming the gun store that gave it to him was like, we just haven't been able to sell this, so here you go, this is your prize to give away. So besides that, let's talk about off-road stuff. We're just sitting here talking about guns for 8 minutes. Sorry. I didn't do anything at all with my truck, but my wife had to take my truck into town and back on Monday or Tuesday last week, and the exhaust still hasn't been fixed. I'm going to be doing that this week. But the exhaust hasn't been fixed, so it's still really loud. And she said that she was a little embarrassed with the exhaust because it was so loud. People were looking at her. But she said that it sounded really good and she likes the sound. And then some construction workers gave her a thumbs up as she drove by. So, yeah, it's worth it.
So she was like crouched in her seat, like, oh no,
trying to hide. Yeah.
I like how she was embarrassed of it. That construction worker, if that'd been you and a construction worker gave you a thumbs up when your truck went by, you would have thought about it all. That's what would have got you through the week.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm excited that my wife got a thumbs up for my truck while she was driving it. Yeah.
But I mean, like that's the compliment that would have carried you through the dark times. You'd be like, man,
absolutely.
This job, it's so hot out. I don't know how much more I can. And then you just that warm feel of somebody giving you a thumbs up when your V8 Nissan ripped by, and you're like, oh yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. Oh, I did take the truck on Saturday to church. We had a work day at church. I had to make up for skipping church on Sunday. So I went to church on the following Saturday, did 8 hours of work, groundskeeping stuff. And someone was there with like an equipment truck, and I drove up on the back of their truck while they had their equipment off of the truck and did a little poser shot up there. So that was kind of fun.
So
and then he raised
broken down.
Yeah, then he raised the ramps and said, "It's my truck now, sucker." Yeah, I was like, "Well, that's fine. I'll trade it for I'll trade it for your skid steer. That skid steer is probably worth $80,000 with all the equipment and attachments. So
I mean,
it'd be a long, slow drive home, but whatever, I'll do it.
Take the skid steer home. You've got a welder. You can do a lot of things with that.
Yeah,
I don't know. You can go. You can go line of
as
sight
the crow flies.
As the crow flies, you just head straight towards.
Probably save a mile.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well. Ben, what have you been up to?
Well, like we heard, my wife left me. My whole family's left me. So the kids are off at summer camp, and the wife went to go see them. I was originally going to go, but I decided to stay because I had a feeling that the crew working on the garage would show up anyways, even though they were told I was going to be out of town. And so I got a bunch of work done around the house, and I've been able to do a few things I've been meaning to do. And then lo and behold, the crew did come by and they installed my man door and my ridge vent. So all I'm waiting on now is my garage doors and my concrete. And concrete's in a week or two.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for that.
Then you can start putting stuff in there.
Yep. Oh, I'm already itching to start throwing stuff in there.
Have you had an electrical inspection before you
No, I need to finish install. I need to get the ground rod in. I'm going to do that tomorrow and call for my pre-inspection.
You could do just an underground and have them look. If you aren't ready, you could have them look at just the stuff that the concrete's going on top of.
Well, I'm doing the ground rods under the concrete.
Oh, okay.
So gotcha. I'm like, that's literally the last thing I need to do before pre-inspection. And then I've got to tap some dirt down into place in a few spots, and I'm ready for concrete. I've been inside working on house stuff. It's amazing how much decluttering I've been doing. It's nice. Coy, what about you?
Well, I actually did a brake job on my FJ, so just had to get that all taken care of. She's starting to get a little squeaky. We're getting down to the squealers. I probably would have been good for a couple more months, but I hate that noise. And it was where when you slammed on the brakes or when you turned a corner kind of hard, it'll kind of, I don't know, that flexes a little in there and you get a little squeal. So didn't like that. So went ahead and changed those. Was easy. I need to do an oil change and throw my new winch lane on before our trip in 2 weeks. And then I did a bunch of planning and stuff for a trip, had a meeting, kind of got a bunch of stuff worked out. I bought a new camp chair. Just got that. Yeah.
Did you?
It's a love seat.
Did you pay that much?
No, I have a friend that works for that company.
Okay.
He got it at I can't say how much, but
that's fine. No, that's fine. Just like that's a lot of money for a camp chair. Is it comfy?
Yeah, it's a you can like kick back and sleep on it like a couch. It's actually quite a bit bigger than I thought it was. It's
okay.
It's probably 5 feet wide.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very big, almost too big, but 2 people can sit in. It's a love seat, super padded. I'm probably gonna lay in it a lot.
Is that so you can cuddle with your wife at the Overland Rally and be near her?
If my wife would like to cuddle with me, she can, but we all know the answer to that. So it's more for me to drink too much and then kick back.
There you
go. Because I like to nap on couches and stuff.
Did you send me that video of the guy who had a little bit too much to drink and was kind of laying in the middle of the road?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Yeah. Okay. Please don't do that in your chair. Please don't do that in your chair.
We'll see. We'll see. That's how you know you have a good time, is if you don't get up to use the bathroom and you just keep sleeping. That's you know you had a good night. Bad morning, but good night.
Yeah. Did I send that one to you, Ben?
No, but I might have
Okay.
seen it.
I'm assuming that guy died shortly after. Poor guy.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's about all I've been up to, guys. Just trip planning, little maintenance, and then buying stuff I shouldn't. Oh, my Oscar Shovel Plus Axe fire pit. I got the regulator for it. Put a quick adapter on it, and it is quite nice. It shoots the flames. It's a literal flamethrower. So gonna be playing with that.
Did he say that he was going to sell adapters, or does he just want people to source them themselves?
What do you mean adapters? Regulators?
Sorry, regulators. Yeah, I meant regulators.
I think he's just gonna let people source them themselves. They're practically free on Amazon. So I mean they're like $12. But I went ahead and bought a propane quick disconnect. It looks really similar to an air chuck fitting. Put that on there so that I can pop that off and put it all inside of the unit and fold it up and all be enclosed. And then I just put that all together a little bit for the show, so I haven't got much to play with it. But I'm gonna try doing some Dutch oven cooking on there. I think I can make a cobbler on this thing.
Ooh.
Let's do it. We'll find out in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That would be that quick disconnect would be nice because your Rockwood has a quick disconnect on the outside of it too, right?
I learned this the hard way once before. RVs use a low pressure propane system and everything else is high pressure. So you can connect stuff to it all day long and you get like 2 PSI of propane and it barely connects anything. So don't bother doing that.
Okay. Sounds good.
Lame.
That sucks. Considering you're carrying around the propane.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Do I need to bring my fire pit then, or you want to run 2 for this trip?
We should have at least 2.
Or you just want me to bring mine so you can be like, ugh, it hurts, pathetic fire pit. Look at mine. See how amazing it is.
No, it's just then we can have, kind of sometimes people break off, or if it's cold and everybody wants to get close to a fire, you can get 2 going and have 2 circles, So I say bring them both. We don't have to get them both out, but there's nothing. Obviously, the old Little Red Campfire is a proven campfire pit. There's nothing wrong with it. Obviously, mine is far superior, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with yours.
You didn't cheat anyone out of it, right, Aaron?
Nope. I paid fair and square for it. All I got used, like a lot of things. Yeah.
No, definitely bring it.
Okay. We also want to thank our sponsor, Patriot Patch. Head over to patriotpatch.co and check out their selection of great patches, shirts, cleaning mats, signs, and stickers. You can also join the Patch of the Month Club for $15 and receive a patch, matching sticker, and artist proof each month. I don't have one close to me, but the July patch, there we go. Sorry, the June patch of the month is the shotgun with the EOTech bandolier full of firecrackers, M80s, and the barrel's got some bottle rockets.
I was just looking to see if they were showing July's.
I think. Well, we're almost at the end of the month. Yeah, July. It's got to be really close.
Yeah, he's got a video of him making it. That's it.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, that's coming up. Also, don't forget our patches, $13 shipped from us here in the US to you for the first one, 10 for any additional, and 10 picked up from us in person. Just shoot us a message through any of your channels. We'll hook you up with a PayPal link.
Have tire troubles ever left you deflated? Colby Valve has got you covered. Ever have a valve stem leak? Colby Valve makes reusable and easily replaceable valve stems that don't require you to remove your tire from the wheel. They work with your off-road rig, ATV, side-by-side, commuter vehicle, or even your tractor. Never be left stranded again because of a busted valve stem. They also have a tire repair kit for those punctures that keep you away from doing your favorite thing, wheeling. Make sure to check out colbyvalve.com or ask for them at your local off-road products store.
I like Travis's comment. He said, having 2 fire pits is like only bringing 1. So bring 4.
There you go.
I'm a big fan of fire. I was going to bring it even if Coy said not to.
Well, what's it hurt having lots of fire? Ask California.
I think I was at Overland Rally one time and it was cold in the evening and we got like 4 or 5 of them, pushed them all together in the middle and they were all those little red fire pits. It just had like a bonfire of propane fire pits going.
Nice. Bubba's calling me a pyro. Absolutely. I'll take that one all day long.
All day long.
Say that like it's a bad thing.
Right? Yeah. I've burned down a lot of stuff. Sometimes on accident. Well, our first news article here is about the Ram Rampage. Say that 5 times fast.
Ram Rampage. Yeah, nope. I can't even say it straight. Ram Rampage.
We get Coy to say it at regular speed, and then in about 30 seconds, his screen will show it in high speed 5 times fast. So
Ram Rampage, Ram Rampage, Ram Rampage.
Ram-a-lama ding dong. All right. So 2024, the Ram Rampage has been debuted in Brazil. So this is a competitor for the Ford Maverick. But it's debuted in Brazil. It has not been even talked about coming to America, North America specifically, or even the United States. So it's offered in a Laramie package, an RT, and a Rebel trim. I'm curious about the Rebel trim because the Rebel for the Ram 1500 is actually a pretty good off-road package.
So is the RT, does that still stand for road and track?
It used to.
I just don't know.
Curious what the situation is with a road and track. Thing.
Yeah. So it's not been confirmed to come to the US, but it says it was designed with Stellantis of North America. And it has an American flag motif in the taillights, which is really interesting. I mean, that's a legitimate American flag. Obviously, it's not to scale. It's not all the stripes. It's not all the stars, but there's literally stars and stripes. So curious about that. I find it really interesting that they would release taillights like that and not bring it to North America. I'm actually shocked that they would release it like that to countries that aren't America. That's just kind of wild to me.
See, that actually makes more sense that they would do that because they're going off like, oh, this is American truck, you know, like the Mini Coopers having the British flag plastered on the roof here. Like, you know, that's a selling point, American steel. Whereas here, it's just a Ram. Like, no one cares if it has American flag or not.
I guess, yeah. So, back in March, a Brazilian automotive website reported that the president of Stellantis for South America told a group of reporters that a version of the Ram 1200, which is the Rampage, would be sold in the U.S. to compete with the Ford Maverick. So something is coming, but they're not saying what it is. It says the report also references plans for a smaller body-on-frame truck, which would be competing with the Ford Ranger, Toyota Tacoma. So we could have a new Dodge Dakota coming out. I guess it would be a Ram Dakota. What do you guys think about that? Do you think Dodge can hang with everything that's happening right now?
I think they're missing the market by not being in it.
Yeah.
I think Dodge is doing one of these hold my hat things. They're going to pull up with a Dakota Hellcat, SRT8 Hellcat. Woo! You know, come stumbling out of a club, white stuff all over their face, parked way too hard.
Does Stellantis own Jeep too?
Our Hurricane engine.
Yeah, Stellantis owns Jeep also.
See, they've got the stuff to pull from Jeep's knowledge on suspension. I mean, they have the opportunity to make some really cool
I'm sorry, what?
mid-sized trucks.
I don't know if you've noticed, but everybody changes out that Jeep suspension. I don't know if anybody knows if it's any good or not. do they actually have knowledge on suspension? Like, they don't have any go fast suspension stuff. Like, there's no like,
I'm talking for like the rock crawlers style, doing a solid axle up front for a mid-sized truck versus a IFS up front, because I think that's something lacking in that market.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't see them do anything like that.
Yeah,
I don't think that they could. I don't think they could use the Gladiator frame either, because I think the Gladiator frame is based off of a half-ton truck. Yeah. So I just don't know. But
well, they can take all of that Renegade suspension tech, put it right into the Ram Rampage, take all that Trailhawk stuff they've done, put it in there. We'll have a Rampage Trailhawk SRT8 Hellcat thing.
The Dakota did come with a V8 back in the day. It was one of the few trucks you could get with a V8 in it. So
5.8 Magnum.
Yeah. So who knows? The Ram is 1.7 inches shorter, but an inch and a half taller than the Maverick. And it says that the wheelbase is also 3 inches shorter than the Maverick. There's no specs on the bed length, but it has a power opening tailgate, which is kind of a trendy thing to do nowadays. Says the max payload is 2,238 pounds. So payload would be bed capacity. I'm shocked by that payload. That's a huge number. Although I wonder, does that count occupants inside the vehicle? Like,
I thought payload's just for the bed.
I thought so too. But whatever the case is, it's that high, but that's with the diesel 4-cylinder turbo diesel, which I will highly doubt we'll get in the US. And the article confirms it. I guess they don't confirm it, but they also say the same thing. So if you get the non-diesel, the Hurricane 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, it only has a 1,653 pound payload. So I don't know why the payload would be a lot less. Because I would assume the suspension, the brakes, and all those things would be common. The engine probably weighs less than the diesel engine. They're both turbo 4-cylinders.
I'm going to say South America probably does their payload stuff a little different than we do. There's brakes may not be the deciding factor in how much you can haul there, is what I'm trying to say.
I see. Yeah, that's possible. So anyways, I'm curious to see. I think more competition in that zone will make another class of trucks. Like, we got these mini trucks coming back. I feel like that will pull some of the people away from Toyota Tacomas and the Rangers and put them in a truck that they really need. And maybe these mid-sized trucks that we like to buy won't be so expensive, because there'll be some more of them. There'll be more on the used market because people will changing out. I don't know.
So that picture you guys had popped up, is that a render, or is that actually what it's gonna like? Is that actually it?
Yeah. No, I think that's actually it. What do you think about the looks of that?
That's what I was gonna ask you guys. It's not McDonald's. I'm not loving it, I guess. It's funky. Maybe it'll grow on me. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I hate it.
It's a unibody thing. So I hate it because of that. Not really, but I do. I don't like the front end. I did have a bunch of pictures that I saw on the interior, and it looks pretty well thought out, which, I mean, there's the compliment that it gets, it's got a nice interior. But I think the front of the truck's ugly.
I'm gonna be honest. If I hold my hand up and I imagine this thing just absolutely dumped on its butt, just slammed, it might look okay. But as an actual truck, I don't know. Something's weird.
Dump it down, looks like an El Camino.
Yeah.
To me, it looks very sedan. When you put your hand to hide the fact that it has a bed, if you pretended that there was a slope back there, a rear window going to a trunk, this thing looks like a tall sedan with a weird front end. Like, even if you hide the grill a little bit, it looks like it could be an aggressive front end on a car.
Was it the Dodge Avenger that had headlights kind of reminiscent of that?
Kind of, yeah.
Like an early 2000s sedan. Maybe
Yeah.
that's what I'm hating about it.
All it's missing is it kind of reminds me of like the Brat, not the Brat, the Baja. The way it slopes in the back.
I don't like the angle where the side windows climb at the bottom of the side windows at the top of above the door handles. It climbs really high. It feels like the bed sides are way too high for this vehicle, but it does, like, I've been down to Mexico a couple times. This looks like the trucks that run around down in Mexico that we don't get in the US. There's quite a bit of trucks like this down there already, and this is the same kind of shape as those trucks. So it's probably what sells down there. And because the president of Stellantis South America said that we will be getting a version, maybe we're going to get one that's the body is shaped more how us Americans like it.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling it.
You are right. Like, if it had like the rear portion, like of some sort of bed cover, I think it was like a crossover.
Yeah. Eric says he doesn't like the Taurus dents on the side, and it looks like a mini Ridgeline. So,
all right. Our next story here is from Car and Driver, and it's about the Toyota Land Cruiser. The one we lost in 2021. Well, now they're expecting to bring it back in 2024. Apparently, that's the only rendering we have of it, but they're talking about a new one based off of very similarly to the Lexus GX that just got released. But more than likely, it's not going to be a 300 series, so a new series of them. It's hard to say because the Tundras just got a new rebuild, along with the Sequoias, I believe, got an update as well. And the Lexus and those use that same frame system.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. And it just doesn't make sense to have the Sequoia and the Land Cruiser again in our market. I feel like they just need to differentiate them enough for them to be viable to sell separately. Yeah.
I feel like they made the Sequoia too luxurious, and so that's cutting into Land Cruiser sales, and it's gotten so expensive.
Yeah.
It's almost as expensive as a Land Cruiser. We talked about that a couple years ago.
The Land Cruisers were going for what, $90,000 base?
Yeah. I think it was 85.
My secret hope is that they go the other way. If they go old school Land Cruiser, we put it on a diet, we drop the price, we start competing against Wranglers. Like, we actually have a Toyota, like, serious off-roader kind of FJ Cruiser-esque, That's my secret hope, even though I don't believe it, but how cool would that be?
Solid axles front and rear and everything.
It wouldn't have to have solid axles, but I mean something good independent with a locker in the front, like Land Cruiser's always been kind of standalone to all the other models. That didn't really, there would be the Lexus version of a Land Cruiser, but it was never a Lexus that then became a Land Cruiser. You know what I mean? It didn't share frames with a bunch of other stuff. It didn't share all these components. You pull Land Cruiser parts to put on other things. So maybe
to compete with like Bronco, maybe more competitive with a Bronco with the IFS stuff.
Yeah, I hope that it's more of its own thing than actually sharing all of these. That's probably a pipe dream, but yeah.
Yep. So, we're expected to hear more about that closer to 2024. So,
Schizophrenic Uncle.
Don't forget to visit Patriot Patch and join the Patch of the Month Club. Check out our Gaia affiliate link for up to 40% off. Also, don't forget to head over to Warren Medical Gear Outfitters and Colby Valve to see all their great gear. We are a proud part of the Firearms Radio Network. Got a comment or question? Send it to us through our webpage at firearmsradio.net or through our social media channels by searching for Off-Road Podcast. Also, you can listen to us live at overlandradio.com Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific. When off-road, please remember to have fun, tread lightly, be safe, and courteous. Thanks for listening.
Wow, I just realized I hit the wrong button.
Go prepared with Warren Industries. They produced the first recreational winch in 1959 and lead the industry with their dedication to quality and reliability. When you dig yourself in deep, make sure you have the right tools to get yourself out. Get Warren equipped and go where others can't. Now, let's get ready for adventure and head into our main topic.
All right.
Yeah.
So now that I realize that towards the end of that whole outro there, this week we're talking tents of all kinds with our experiences, because you may not have those same experiences and you're trying to figure out what you want to use for camp and off-road. And between the three of us, we've got a lot of different experiences.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Sure.
So we'll start this off with the ground tents and the different styles. So we've got like let's see, is there a picture of it? Yeah, a bivy sack, a swag tent. That's pretty common in the off-road world. Your traditional like hub dome style tent, or the extended, or a tunnel, or a cabin. Or like a gazelle is a hub tent. We've got the frame tent, which would be like Koi's what was that tent?
Yes, that's a Elk Mountain. We call them wall tents generally, but it's an EMT style metal tubing frame you put up, and then an actual canvas or canvas polyester goes over it.
And then we have like the awning tents, which I should have a picture somewhere around here. Like that I've used before in the past, where it like attaches under the awning, or some of them you can get, or that used to be around, where they could attach to the side of an awning. So yeah.
Lots of different kinds. One that you showed a picture of, but you didn't say the name of it, was a pop-up tent.
Oh, pop-up tent, yeah.
Yeah, there it goes. Pop-up tent. And you had one of those. I think is the pop-up tent the one we took with us on the first Gambler?
Yes, but it was a different style than that type of pop-up. Mine was like a quick pop-up, kind of like how the Gazelle pops up, but the poles kind of like a hub tent, but it popped at the top.
Oh, okay. I for some reason was thinking it was this style where you grab it and you twist it and it collapses into a loop, circle, flat kind of a thing. So
no.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, some things you want to consider with those would be like, how much weight do you want to carry? Because I know like the wall tent, like Koi's, or like my Peasant Palace, that thing weighed like 50 pounds plus. And it's never fun to set up. It takes forever to set up. Koi, your wall tent,
very heavy. The downside that really any canvas tent, but especially those big wall ones, you got to dry them out. You need space. If you don't have a giant indoor space, then you got to go home, set it up, wait for it to stop raining, fire up a wood stove in there, and dry it out. Yeah. And then obviously when you pack down a tent like large wall tent, out expedition tent, whatever you want to call it, elk hunting tent, you pack that down in that canvas, you can barely get it back at its original thing, and you strap it all up, and then like 3 weeks later it'll finally get small enough that you can zip it closed. it's a multi-person operation. Usually you need at least 2 guys to really set that up and take it down.
Yeah. And the poles for it are heavy too, because when you guys brought it snow camping, wasn't it Aaron, you brought the poles and Coy brought the canvas?
Yeah, we actually split the tent up among 2 different vehicles. I brought the poles. Some of them were about 8 feet long, I believe. I don't think they were longer than 8, but
but it's 13 or 14 by 16. You can stand up in it. Wood stove. Not a lot of tents you can run a wood stove in. But what they can't offer can't be offered in other tents, really.
Yeah.
We should actually touch on that real quick. You mentioned that you could put a wood stove in it. I believe the term for that is called a hot tent. So hot tents have ports in them, sometimes in the top, sometimes in the side, or sometimes both, that you can run your chimney out of. And
you can find some ground tents that are smaller that are like that, like a teepee style one.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be a teepee style one. I've looked at getting one for goofing off with, and you can get a cabin shaped one, you can get an A-frame shaped one, you can get the teepee style. So there's different shapes that you can get hot tents in.
Yeah.
So that's the wall tent. Let's talk about just a traditional tent. So the one with the fiberglass poles that you got to clip together. Yeah, that one. Good photo, Ben.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So for the audio listeners, it's just a dome tent, and there's 2 bears just going to town. And I'm not. That's not pornographic. They're I don't know what they're doing in it. They're not doing anything pornographic in it.
Eating food.
They're probably eating something inside of it. Yeah.
Yeah. People didn't put their food away from their camp, and then the bears got in their tent.
Yep. These are generally pretty quick to set up. A lot of dome tents are just 2 poles, sometimes 3, depending on the size of them. The fiberglass rods have some flex to them. You can break those fiberglass rods, although there is a website that you can go and order custom fiberglass rods to replace your rods. So that's kind of a cool thing.
They're generally generally with those style, they're not always the tallest of tents.
No.
You can get larger ones where they can be taller. And the rule of thumb with tents is like they'll say how many man tent it is. So it'll say it's a 2-man tent, but it's more like a 1-man tent.
Let's see here. So this is a tent of Ben's, and this is what you'd call Ben has it labeled as Peasant Palace. He found a piece of cardboard or something and labeled it.
That before we left. Yeah.
Did you? Okay. This uses like an exterior frame that you set up, and then it clips into that frame that you built. So it's kind of like halfway between a dome tent and a wall tent. So
is this where you actually have like the fold out canopy and then you hang this inside there?
No, it's you just build the poles, you slide the canopy on over afterwards. So you would set it up on the ground, and then you do the last poles last, and then kind of lift the whole tent up as you put the feet on. It was a pain in the butt. It took us 45 minutes. That was at Northwest Overland Rally.
I had a couple of those tents that were gifted to me.
They're handy for like changing in and all that.
I think they're great family tent.
Great family tents where you're like going camping for a long weekend. They're just really heavy and they take forever to set up. You
wouldn't want this if you were moving camp every day. That's for sure. Let's jump over to the hub tent since we got experience with that. Is that yours, Ben? On the screen?
That's my Gazelle. I think that was
okay.
fun. So I love my Gazelle.
Ooh, that's a good picture. Leave that one up for a bit.
The hub tents are really handy. They're really quick to set up, take down. And I've noticed that the materials used for the hub tents are a lot better. They use a denier polyester blend, and it's kind of thicker, closer to a canvas versus like the dome tents we were talking about before, like the Peasant Palace. It's a really thin polyester nylon blend, I think it is. And they generally rip easier, even though it's like a rip stop, but you'll get a rip in it. It just sucks.
Eric says he got a giant Costco one with an internal steel frame. It was great until we encountered a micro burst storm that twisted it up.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't sound like fun. In this picture, you can see Ben's orange tent in the front and Jeremy's green tent in the back. So Ben's is a T4 Gazelle, which is 8x8.
Yep.
And T3, I believe, is 6x6.
Yeah, the T3 6x6, when it folds down, you can actually fit it in the back of. Jeremy got it because it could fit in the back of his Jeep sideways. Versus my Gazelle, when I fold it up, it has to go on the roof. Or if it's just me, it goes in the back.
Yep.
Long ways.
I also have a Gazelle. Mine is like two of Ben's. So I have the Gazelle T8. So it's essentially two of Ben's tents connected on one of the side panels. I don't have any pictures of it, but it's nice because it's two 8x8 rooms, one for our kids and one for us, and then a zipper wall between them. But it's a monster. Like, it fits in the bed of the truck, or it's got to go on a roof rack. It's just so long when it's all collapsed. But it's really cool. These hub tents go up super fast. Travis mentioned in the comments that he has owned a bunch of tents, including a Gazelle and a shift pod. Shift pods are those super cool spacey silver ones. I borrowed one of those for one of our snow camping trips, and it definitely kept me warm. And they're like quilted on the outside of those ones, but
those have like a better insulation. They're a lot more expensive. Yeah. And that's kind of the difference between like those the hub tents and kind of your traditional tents is the price. The Gazelles, I want to say, start at around 300 and go up depending upon the size you go with, versus you can go to Walmart and spend $40 on
a dome tent. Yeah.
But I mean, you get what you pay for with those ones, in my opinion.
You do, and they you can stand up inside of them. The Gazelles are tall enough that tall people like you and I and Coy can stand up inside of them.
Yep. Coy's tall.
I have heard though with these hub tents that some people have gotten a blast of air and had the walls pop in on them.
I've had that happen. There are tie downs. If you look at the picture that I have on the screen here, there's little loops for tie downs there to help with that. You just got to actually use your tie downs to do that, and make sure you have strong enough guy lines, otherwise they break. And staked properly, things like that do matter.
Yep.
I used crappy string for when I did it, and it broke the string.
It was so windy it broke the string and popped it in.
Yep.
Wow.
But it was crappy.
One thing I will say I don't like about these Gazelles is how you get in and out of them is this funky shaped door. Yeah. And I feel like even without being intoxicated, you could trip going in or out. Going in won't be as big of a deal because you'll probably fall onto your mattress, but going out, and the other downside to the Gazelle is that the rain fly doesn't stick out very far. It looks like it does in this picture, but it really doesn't. I used mine in the mountains of Colorado, and a lot of rain would come in. You unzip it, and as you're climbing through the opening, a lot of rain would come through that door into inside of your tent with you. So
yeah, I use with mine, I use a secondary tarp over the top of it, and give it like a little porch in the front just because of how the rain is with that. Which, I mean, that's an extra cost and extra supplies and more things to carry, but it's nice for the extra coverage.
I think that's almost like what you do when you live in the Pacific Northwest is you bring tarps when you go camping because rain is inevitable.
Oh yeah, I grew up and we camped in the rain all the time, and we would just have a million tarps up, and it'd be like a tarp encampment.
Yep. All right, we got one more ground tent to talk about. The swag.
You between all of us probably have the most experience with that, right?
Yeah. In fact, there it is set up. And you can see a hot tent in the background. There it is set up. I was camping with some friends. I was testing it out. This was the first time I slept in it. Super easy to put up. Swags, though, because they come with their own mattress, they are huge. I want to say when this thing is collapsed in its bag, it's probably 20 inches by 20 inches by 3.5 feet long. It's just a giant cube, but it's not heavy. It's just because that mattress rolls up with the tent, it's just thick. So,
I mean, that's kind of a bonus to it, though, too, is, I mean, it's got a mattress versus needing to pull out a sleeping pad and all that. So all you have to do is throw your sleeping bag in there and a pillow if you use a pillow, and there you go.
Yeah. I will say that this is the most comfortable camp mattress I've ever slept on, whether it's a mattress I've bought or a mattress that's come with a tent or any of that. This is the most comfortable I've ever been.
Yeah.
Downsides to this tent, changing your clothes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other downsides, waking up early in the morning and having to go pee and trying to get your clothes on because you don't sleep with any clothes on, and trying to get dressed as quickly as you can inside of this tent. So
time to start sleeping with basketball shorts, Aaron.
Yeah, definitely has some size restrictions, but I mean they definitely, are kind of compact and have everything you need in it, and then they don't let a lot of light in, so you kind of sleep.
Oh yeah,
coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're claustrophobic at all, you might worry about it.
They're a bit of an isolation tank.
Yeah. But the cool thing is like so is it both sides have the little vent thing on the end, Aaron? Like
So
it's got spots for windows to open up. You can have the side up with some of them. Depending upon the model you go with, some of them fit on a cot. So
that's true. If you want to add even more comfort, you could put a cot underneath it.
I know Bubba, who was in the comments earlier, he's got the older single version of the Iron Man swag, and they have a cot that you can put that on. I don't think the deluxe has one yet.
I thought they were developing them. I think that they had it for the single, but not for the double. Last time we talked to them, they may have it now. That was 8 months ago.
Oh yeah.
So, these are kind of spendy though. Also, I believe that this tent retails for about $300, and then they make a double version. So,
yeah,
that's a lot of money. I mean, it's built really well, and like I mentioned, you get a nice mattress with it. So if you subtracted the cost of a nice mattress, it's not that expensive, but they're built really well. I think these are amazing for a solo person that's camping. I've only ever used mine in poor weather, and it did well in poor weather.
Your son just used it at Northwest Overland Rally, right?
Yeah, I guess my personal experience, though.
Gotcha.
I've only ever used it like in the rain or the really cold, and it did well with that. I'm sure it might get a little warm inside if you're camping in hot weather, but generally around here, it gets cold at night. If it's a hot day, it cools off enough. So I don't think it would be too stifling inside.
Well, and the
So
way it opens up is there's you can also just have the bug screen on it.
yeah, actually in this picture, in this configuration, you can leave that flap up and you could zip the bug screen down and have as much ventilation as you want. And both sides fold open like this and both ends zip straight down. So you could really ventilate this tent a lot.
Yeah. Which you might want.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the cost of all those, your traditional tent's going to be cheaper, but like we said, it's going to be, quality kind of goes up with price among tents.
Yeah.
Care and maintenance is a big thing with all these, like tent poles breaking, drying them out. You've got to have a space big enough to dry them out. Like a swag, bringing that into the living room and letting it dry out would probably be really easy. Like if you were an apartment dweller, trying to pull out the peasant palace inside of an apartment would be pretty rough. Like Coy mentioned with the wall tent, that sucks. We didn't mention yet, or I guess we did mention the awning tents. And those, it's one of those things. Again, you've got to dry them out.
That's something that you got to double down on if you want any tent to last. Even I have a cheap Coleman. I can't speed something. Is kind of a, I don't know. It was kind of an exo frame tent, but it popped up real fast. Then you had kind of cover over it. They sold them at Bimart. They were like $200 brand new, but they were just a Coleman, nothing special. I camped a ton in that tent, still have it, but I dried it every single time. With any tent, even if you have like a pretty nice day, you got to pack up early and go. There's a little dew on there. Unless you're leaving your tent set up till late morning, 10:30 or so, and it's a warm sunny day, not overcast, you got to take that home, set it up, air it out, and dry it. And if you do that every time, a lot of these tents will last years.
My in-laws have a Coleman that's 30 years old.
You'll live a significant portion of your life being able to use that same tent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one more part of that drying out before we jump to the next section here is a lot of the rubber floors are impermeable to water. When you go to roll up your tent, you flip it over. It's probably got a lot of water and wetness on the underside of it from sitting where you were camping. So after your tent has dried, like if you're going to try to dry your tent outside before you pack it up, flip it over. Unfortunately, it puts the good side into the dirt, but you're going to want to dry that rubber off as well, that rubberized coating or whatever it is on the bottom. That way you're not rolling up that moisture inside of your tent.
Yeah, and something that'll help with that is like a ground tarp or whatnot ahead of time, and then you just don't store that with your tent because the moisture that's on that ground tarp will then be transferred through the bag. But that I use a ground tarp just to protect the tent floor too, because some of them are kind of thin. I've noticed like my Gazelles is a little thin compared to like Coy's. Yours is like a rubberized one on your CVT.
Mine's a heavy duty rubber on that CVT ground tent. I don't think CVT even makes that anymore. I still generally run a ground tarp just for when I go to roll it up and put it back in the package. There's not a bunch of dirt stuck to the bottom. And then I just pull my tarp up and, tie some rope around it. It just keeps everything cleaner, and it's that much less have to work.
And it keeps it around. Waterproofing them from time to time does not hurt, especially if you live like here in the Pacific Northwest. Manufacturers may say your tent comes pre-waterproofed and you've got to do something to prep it for that, like spray it with water ahead of time and let it dry out. And then sometimes it helps to go through with some seam seal and just hit some of those seams again, just in case, because it's better than having a leaky tent and ruining a trip.
And zipper wax.
Zipper wax. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yep.
Sticky zippers.
All right.
Suck.
Let's jump up in tent styles here to the rooftop tents. So there's quite a few different styles of rooftop tents. There's the traditional one that opens like a book. There we go. There's a couple pictures. This is the style that I have. It opens like a pop-up book. As you pull back on the half that has the ladder on it, the frame inside pops up and everything. The only thing you really have to do is, if you have the kind with the overhang, is clip in the poles on that portion, and that's all it takes to set this up. Seems pretty fast. We'll get into that in a minute. Wedge style tents. There we go. This another CVT. This is a picture. I think Coy took this picture, or I took this picture at the Northwest Overland Rally. These were the medics there. So this would be a wedge style where it opens at the front, the leading edge of the rooftop tent. There's also hard shells. So this picture has two different versions of hard shell. In the background, you can see the 80 series. That one just goes straight up.
It's on like the scissor lift.
Yep. The one in the foreground is like a two-piece one. So it's almost like it's almost like two clamshells put together to get it to go straight up. It's still straight up.
The ends have like a Z-shaped frame. You smash that down. So if you imagine putting weight on top of the letter Z till it was flat, kind of works.
Yeah. Good description. That one's a lot more complex to describe there. Then you've got some hybrid styles, which would be like the iCamper. I don't have a picture one. I don't think we have a picture one, but like the iCamper style where it's a clamshell. Oh, I guess I skipped. Did I skip clamshell? So clamshell opens to the side. It's hinged on the side rather than at the front edge. And then a hybrid would be a clamshell, and then it has a flip out, which I don't know if we have any pictures of that.
I'm looking. I'm not seeing any. I thought I had some.
Yeah. The one in the picture here on that pole-to-pole EV vehicle is like a traditional style. It doesn't have the canvas material. It has like the ripstop fabric, nylon fabric. But it still opens up very similar, where it just kind of pops itself up as you pull it out.
I don't have one in here for a hybrid.
Actually, there's a hybrid in this photo right there in the very, very back to the right of the red 4Runner. There's a hybrid style. So basically the purpose of the hybrid is that you get more space. So the traditional rooftop tent gives you the most sleeping space out of all of them. The hybrid gives you the ease of opening and closing, and then it's got this little half portion that flips out to give you more sleeping space in it. So yeah, some things to consider about these is that some of them are easy to open and close, and some of them are easy to open and very time consuming to close up. So the traditional one, which is what I have, would be the worst for any of this. It's going to be the slowest to open, and it's going to be the slowest to close, because when you close it, the fabric doesn't tuck in. You have to climb all the way around your rig and start tucking that fabric in. There we go. There's a hybrid style. So you've got to tuck all that fabric in before you completely close it up so that you can put the cover on. And the cover is a rubberized fabric cover that you've got to flop over it and zipper it all the way around. Then you got to throw a couple nylon straps over that and buckle it down. Oh, I forgot, before you flop the cover over, you have to cinch some straps or clip some straps to hold the tent to itself on the inside so that it stays collapsed. There's a lot that goes into closing that up. And then just imagine that tent is completely wet because it's been raining the whole time, and you're just folding wet tent up with mattress and everything. And you have no choice, unless you're going to stick around till it dries. You've got no choice but to close it up and have a wetness everywhere. The wedges, the hard shells, the clam shells, the hybrids. The hybrid would be probably the second most quote unquote difficult, but from what I've seen, it literally just opens like the rest of them, and then you just flip that section out. So I don't
I've
think
seen
it
some of
takes any
the
real.
iCamper hybrids that, I mean, it just flip flops and it's close.
Yep.
Some of them are pretty slick.
Yeah. So these are way fast, and they generally have a gas strut that helps them open. And it's literally like 5 seconds and these things are open. So once again, though, if it's wet, you're tucking it away wet.
Yep.
And generally your mattress is inside of there. So as soon as you get home, you're going to want to open that up and dry it out any way you can.
And you're going to need
that,
to have a dry place to dry it out.
Yeah. But see, that might be a problem. Like you might, that might be your daily driver that rooftop tent is on top of. So when I first got mine, I would drive my truck to work, and then I would open it up on where I'd park on the sidewalk in front of the company. And I would be airing it out in front of my company. So yeah.
Yeah. Something else to consider is brands. Not all, well, a lot of the companies are their tents are made overseas. Brands do come into play with that, with the quality and the support that you get afterwards.
Yeah.
Not to sound like some brand snob. Do your research, your due diligence on your brands and the tents manufacturers that you're interested in. Just because it has a really good price doesn't necessarily mean you get the best of the rooftop tents, and you'll find yourself complaining about problems with it later, and then there's no support from them, or they don't call you back when you call them, and then you're upset because you've spent here's another thing is the price, how much you spent. Those tents aren't cheap. You're talking $900 up on a rooftop tent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, basically, you don't want to pick something that's so cheap that you end up hating it. So you've always wanted a rooftop tent and you can't wait. And so you decide to get one a little sooner than maybe you should because you can find a cheaper one. Well, if it's not good, and then it just gives you a terrible experience, what should have been a good experience with this rooftop tent that you've looked forward to now sucks because of this one tent. And then you're going to be jaded against the tents possibly forever. So, get the one that is going to work for you, even if it takes you a little longer, it may cost more.
Yeah. The weight is something really to consider. I've got super soft springs on the rear of my 4Runner, and when I had that really wide clamshell or hard shell rooftop tent on, I would go around corners, and not having that rear sway bar, front sway bar, I'd really feel that lean. And so that's something else. It's also a big air drag, so your fuel economy is going to dump.
I have noticed that depending on where you place it on your rig, if you have it farther forward, it's going to push air. But if you can get it back just a little bit, you'll still push some air, but not nearly as much because it'll kind of go up over the windshield. So I did have to be mindful when I mounted mine on my truck. In fact, I got to get mine on my truck in the next week because I'm going to be using it. So
yeah. Size is something you want to consider, is how big it is on the inside, with how many people you're trying to sleep in it. Aaron, you've got the Mount Rainier, which is the 4-person.
They call it a 3+ person. I don't think you could fit 4 adults in it unless they were the skinniest supermodels ever. I've slept 2 adults and 2 kids in it. But the second child, I lay crossways at our head, and then you have 2 adults with a kid in the middle of it. So, although I am a little averse.
I think we should test it next time you go camping. I'll see if I can get a couple supermodels to sleep in your tent with you and see if you can actually get 3 plus you.
Okay, you find the supermodels and we'll test that out. Female supermodels. Go ahead,
Oh.
female.
Wow. Really?
Let's see. Storage. Like Aaron mentioned, he's got to move it back onto his rig. Storing those tents, they're not small. They take up space. They're heavy. You usually need a couple people to lift them up on top of a rig. I think even the small traditional ones weigh 80 to 100 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mine I believe is 130 pounds, the Rainier, and they do make one that's one size larger than the one that I have, so you can get some really heavy rooftop tents.
Yeah, and the hard shell ones, they're even heavier. The wedge ones you saw, some of them have aluminum bodies.
Yeah.
So, and the hybrids, I mean, it's kind of that hard shell container plus the wedge inside it, or the flip out inside of it. So all that adds up with weight. So
and
if
you got to
not have it on your rig all the time, it kind of pain in the butt.
You got to think about it too. If you're wheeling with that, you got to be mindful of what you drive through and under. Ben,
that's how I got mine so cheap.
Yep, you got yours at a good deal because it had damage to it. I've seen people with the traditional style have branches poke through their cover. And the hard shells are fiberglass. Some of them are carbon fiber if you're super fancy, but
fixing fiberglass is a lot cheaper than carbon fiber.
Yeah. So yeah, you just got to be mindful when you're driving with that. And like you were saying, it adds that extra weight up there. If you've got a super soft suspension, that might not pair well with a rooftop tent.
And it's going to change your center of gravity on your vehicle. So be mindful of that. Because if you're going a little off camber on the trail, you're not going to have the same as if you had no tent on the roof, and that's going to affect your center. Your possibility of rolling over.
I've actually heard of people going back to ground tents because they didn't like climbing in and out of them, which I totally get. Yep. It's a ways up there. It's not like it's scary up there or anything, but it can be a pain. Maybe you got to pee in the middle of the night, and
some people don't do the best with ladders.
Yeah,
I'd be one of them. Sleepy. You skip a step and then you've bruised your shin, or like my son did. He fell backwards out of one and his leg got caught in the rung and he dinged up his shin pretty good. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. So like we said, they're expensive. They take, in my opinion, they take more care and maintenance than a ground tent as well. So,
but you are off the ground. So your ability to camp places, you're not looking for a flat spot to camp. You just get your vehicle level and literally pop it up and sleep right there. You can be in 4 inches of mud. If that's where you got stuck and you made that camp, you can just set up camp right there in the mud and close it up.
Yep.
Just probably will have to clean up afterwards.
One other thing about rooftop tents is that you can usually get an optional, I don't want to call it sometimes people call it a screen room, an awning room. I've heard them called a vestibule. It's something that zippers on underneath the part that cantilevers out, that it adds another room to it. So now just my wife and I sleep in the rooftop tent, and our kids sleep. We used to have one sleep with us and one sleep down in the vestibule. Now Thomas is sleeping in the swag by himself, and our daughter sleeps on a cot down in the lower area. So that gives you place to stand up and change. At the rally this year, the Northwest Overland Rally, like I mentioned, my daughter was in the bottom. We also had a very large dog crate that our dog was in. So, and we had all of our luggage down there, lots of space. Ben's flipping through the pictures trying to find one, but
I don't see anyone. Well, here's one. Well, kind of.
Oh, kind of, yeah. That's more like a That's more like a I don't know, a tarp attached to it, not so much a vestibule.
There's
so,
the backside of one.
Yeah.
But it does
Although
give you,
technically that's not a rooftop tent.
yeah, but it does give you an area to change and all that, which is really
Yep.
nice. Versus like being in my teardrop trailer, changing while laying down.
I've heard of people also using them as a potty tent as well. Like if it's just you and your spouse or something, or whatever, you can go to the bathroom inside of that and have some privacy. It's kind of gross that you'd be doing your business in there. Maybe stink that whole area up, but it can be
I
done.
know I would.
You know, you would
I
stink
would
it up.
Area. Stink the entire camp up.
Yeah. So, any last thoughts on rooftop tents before we jump ahead?
Not that I can remember.
Travis says he calls it an annex.
Yeah, I've heard that term
By
a
the
lot
way.
too.
Yep. All right, let's we're going to talk a little bit of trailers, even though it's supposed to be tent talk, because you can get tents on trailers or tent trailers.
Yeah.
We all have experience with this one.
Yeah. So I've got a Rockwood. Coy's got a Rockwood. They're more off-road oriented. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's something you're taking down the Rubicon.
No, please do.
I wouldn't even say they're off-road oriented. They have bigger tires.
Yeah, they're high clearance. That's about as much as it's.
They still rattle apart. They're held together with staples and hopes and dreams. And unless you're spending like $70,000 on a Patriot camper or some crazy name brand, all these tent trailers are built like absolute garbage. And I say that fondly because I love mine and I own one, but I mean, they are just particle board and format.
Yeah, and I've seen guys take like the older Coleman trailers and they flip the axles, put big tires on them, and they're cool. But again, it's made with crappy wood and staples, and it's eventually going to rattle apart. I just found out this last week while my wife and kids are in Montana with the in-laws, their cable snapped on the pop-up trailer. And so like it's collapsing on one side, held up with a broomstick or something right now.
Yeah,
here's another tent trailer. Like a pop-up.
Yeah.
And I guess this isn't technically a pop-up. This is more of a tent trailer.
No, but there is the what is it? The Opus trailers where they inflate and all that.
Yep, that's true.
Those no experience with those though, so we can't really give that.
I don't have a ton of personal experience, but from what I've seen, they are built a lot better and have a more legit off-road suspension and stuff. But I mean, those are pushing $30,000 or maybe more than $30,000. And you still have axles to worry about. With any pop-up trailer, it usually has a furnace, which is nice, but that's another thing that you got to maintain if you have problems with it. They have a fridge, which is nice because they'll usually run on battery or propane or 120 power. But once again, there's more maintenance. They got usually a sink. Some of them have hot water. Some have kind of a bathroom on the side. But these are all little things that are all maintenance heavy. So. But that being said, they're usually not too heavy.
Yeah. And so like mine is a little bit on the larger side, but it tows behind my 4Runner a lot better than, because it's got trailer brakes, it tows a lot better than my tent my teardrop trailer. So that's the nice thing with the tent trailers is they're lighter, I should say.
There's a couple different variations of the pop-up also. So we'll mention that the ones you're talking about have a canvas to them. Yeah. The Opus, I don't think the Opus is canvas. I think it's a little bit lighter than canvas.
It's probably
Travis, can you confirm that?
Mine is not canvas. It is vinyl, similar to like a boat top. Ben's is the same way.
Yep.
And I'm
Oh.
pretty sure the Opus is vinyl as well.
Okay. Maybe it was just older tent trailers.
Older ones are canvas. Newer ones will pretty
Yeah.
much be a vinyl.
Okay. So besides that type of material, there were some pop-up trailers back in the day that had plastic panels that just once you raised it up, the plastic panels lifted into place instead of having that fabric that would go up and down with it. Yeah, it'd be like, yeah. So Apache was the company that made that. I had one of those a long time ago, 1973 Apache Ramada. And I think it was 2,300 pounds. I towed that with my Subaru Outback. Used it a couple times.
Yeah, they're great setup though. I mean, talk about roll into camp, lift it up, and put the door down and call it good.
Yeah, they are a little bit more intruder proof. An intruder can't just like pull on the Velcro to get into them, to unlock them. And then there's one more, which I don't know the brand, but I want to say Alpine is what comes to my mind. And they're like an A-frame style pop-up, which is more like a fold up. There's no real canvas to it at all, but you just you lift the panels and clip them into place on that.
Yeah, there's a few brands that have that.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then our last one here is tents on trailers. And that would be like doing a rooftop tent on top of a trailer. You could do like the old military, was it M4, was it 16 or no, 20?
M416,
M101 and M416.
Yeah. That's like what Rick has. And they're nice. It's nice for like bring your tent, set it up, and instead of having to worry about it being on your vehicle, you can literally leave it as a base camp and go out and explore. And those smaller type tent trailers are lighter, usually built better, can be used off road, so you can drag it along with you down the trail and not worry about it falling apart while you're on the trail.
Yeah, there are. So I showed a picture of one earlier. I'm going to pull that up here. That are not pop-ups. They just are a tent on a trailer. So this is one here. It's a really small little tub. I bet you this thing weighs 500 pounds. It can't weigh hardly anything.
Yeah, I think that TJ right there, maybe that's an LJ. That guy was probably towing it, and that's a whole lot better in the realms of what the older Jeeps could tow, because I think they only had a towing capacity of like 1,000 or 1,500 pounds.
Yeah. So the idea behind this for the audio listeners is that it's almost like a Jeep tub. It's not really, but it's like a Jeep tub with a rooftop tent built onto the top of this tub, so that a traditional one, so that you fold half of it out, and basically all you're doing is sleeping on it, and then it has a little bit of cargo space in the tub area.
Yeah, Andy has one that looks like a Jeep tub. I can't think of any brand.
Yep. And then there are the Patriot campers, which this isn't a very good shot of the tent that's on the Patriot camper, but the Patriot camper is kind of like a cargo. I don't want to say cargo because that's like a tall walk-in one, but like a utility trailer box, and the tent is integral to it. So it flops out and opens up similar to a rooftop tent, but it's not a separate unit. It is actually part of the trailer. So you don't take the tent off and use it elsewhere. It's just part of it.
Yeah. And the cool thing with like the Patriot campers is they have like built-in slides for all your cooking stuff, your fridge and all that.
Yeah. Like Coy said though, these Patriot campers, I believe they start at like 40 grand and they go way up. They're sweet though.
So they make an actual legit pop-up version, and it starts at like 72 and goes up from there. It's like but yeah, very nice, very nice. That's my Powerball thing. I'm definitely getting one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get
and then there's
those for me and those supermodels for Aaron to test his tent out, make sure it's a good size.
So here's my trailer with my rooftop tent on top of my trailer. You'll see this a lot where people have built trailers and they just put the rooftop tents on them. I've seen it done with the style of trailer that I built. I've seen it with just a regular flatbed trailer that they'll put a rack on that's high enough to get the rooftop tent up high, and then you can still put motorcycles or bicycles underneath it. I've seen trailers that are just like a truck bed.
Mm-hmm.
That someone used a truck bed and a frame and turned it into a trailer, and they put rooftop tents on them. So you can essentially whatever you can put a rooftop tent on to, the sky's the limit. So
Once again, there's wheel bearings maintenance. You're beating those things down the trail. Tongues snap. You got there's all that. Brakes. A lot of them have brakes. You gotta watch your brake pad. Like there's a lot of extra maintenance. Not only maintenance on your tent, now you have maintenance on trailer. It's just something to think about.
But you're not having to store it is kind of the trade-off for that. Instead of having to store it on your rig or take it off and put it back on, if it stays on the trailer, it saves you that portion of care.
And you can base camp and take your truck out wheeling and not have to fold up your entire camp.
Yeah.
Base camping is nice with this setup. Also, in theory, you could leave your trailer fully stocked of all your gear and you hook up to it, throw some food in and clothes in to your rig, and you're done. You're gone. As long as you keep up on making sure that every time you use your paper plates, you refill them. It could be really quick to hook up and go camping rather than packing all the stuff in your SUV or truck, loading the rooftop tent on top of it if it's your daily driver and you don't want it up there. It can be a more expedited way to go camping.
Yeah.
We're running pretty long here, but I kind of want to get your ideas on what you currently are running and if you were going to change something, if you're not happy or if you have an idea of what you'd like to do in the future, what are your thoughts there?
I'll start off. I've got my hard shell rooftop tent, which I think I'm going to get rid of. I've got my Gazelle T4, which I love, but I'm considering switching out to a T3 for when it's me, or Swag, which I think I'd rather go with the Swag because generally it'll be just me. And then I've also got the tent trailer, which I mean that's the family thing. I'll bring the tent trailer unless we absolutely can't bring that. Then we'll use the Gazelle for a family tent, and it fits us all just barely enough.
Honestly, for me, I've used a lot of ground tents. I've had several trailers that I've used without putting rooftop tents on them, but just used them to haul my tents and all my gear, and then set up out of those. And then now I run an actual legit air quotes pop-up tent, just a cheap Rockwood one. But I really love the pop-up tent. That being said, I'm not really a real overlander. I'm more of a destination wheeler. I drag that to where I want to wheel, set that up, and then just go wheel. If I'm actually doing a trip where I'm moving every day, I just bring a ground tent, and that's how I do it. If I could change something, I honestly would probably get a little bit better of a pop-up trailer, something like an Opus or something, not that Patriot for $70,000, but the mid-20s or something. I would spend more probably on a pop-up camper if I was going to change much. But I'm pretty happy with ground tents. If I'm moving every day, I just pick a ground tent that's folds up fast and I strap it on the roof rack. when I'm tent camping, I don't notice the guys with the rooftop tents being packed up any faster than me. So,
Oh, definitely not.
Oh,
It took a lot longer for me to camp up at the north or pack up camp at the Northwest Overland Rally than it did for you to close up your pop-up trailer. So, for me, I love the idea of the swag, but it's tough as an adult to change and things in it.
Yeah.
I think I would like to add a Gazelle to my fleet of camping equipment. I think I'd like to get a T4 so that my wife and I could use it. It's quick to take up, quick to put down, or it's something I could use by myself. Unless I swapped out my rooftop tent for something different. I am getting tired of how much it takes to open and close it and set up and all that jazz. It's a lot less when it's just me because I don't usually put the annex room at the bottom of it. I don't need that. So I'm just opening and closing it. So I would like to get a different rooftop tent. I'd love to get one of the hybrid ones because I still want my space. So that's what I would change. I would either get another small ground tent or swap out my rooftop tent. I was trying to talk my wife into a Go Fast camper style at the Northwest Overland Rally. Not specifically the Go Fast camper brand, but I'd like to do something like that in the future too, where it's the canopy part. So, yeah. Eric says he loves a hammock as long as it's not windy. I vaguely remember him having to leave his hammock when we were camping down in Central Oregon and sleep in his rig for the rest of the night because he got too cold. Travis says Opus Light, Gazelle T4, Shift Pod 2, Ironman awning, and shelter room. Ideally change out the Wrangler for Gladiator with a canopy setup and a bigger trailer, i.e. Opus OP15. So, Travis, you've got quite a few sleeping options there, and I like that. I'm that kind of guy. I like to have one of everything so I can change it up depending on the situation.
My only complaint about my T4 is just how long it is. And like on the roof, I'd rather have like the T3 that'll fit in the back seat.
I just don't feel like there's enough space inside of that though to like you're
a 6 foot cube.
You're
perfect.
Yeah, but you're taller than 6 feet. So that means that your head is touching one wall and your feet are touching the other wall when you're trying to sleep.
At an angle, man.
I mean, have you guys seen my CVT? It's basically an Oz tent. Very similar.
Yeah.
I'm surprised more people aren't into that. I mean, you've seen how fast that goes up and down. It's just flop, flop, flop. And it's up, same down. It is long, but I can still load it on my rack easily by myself.
Yeah.
It's ultra high quality.
I love those. My problem was the cost of the Oz tent. I think it was like $800, and CVT doesn't make that one anymore. And Tepui, I think, was the other company that made them, and they don't make them anymore either.
There's another company that makes them now. The name's not coming to me right away. I can find out if you'd like, though, and it's
okay, worth a shot. I honestly would go with an awning room again. My awning room got put away wet and it was completely ruined. There was no saving it. I tried. I was upset about that, and they don't make that size anymore.
Badland Industries says that they plan to run a factory Colorado bed with a tent on top. So he says he doesn't see many doing that. So
yeah, I think it depends upon the model of Colorado you have. I know the ZR2s have our friend Dennis with the ZR2 Bison. With the suspension, it has a really low bed capacity.
Payload,
load, and it affects the suspension way too much. And he's picky about that. Next week, we're going to be talking maps and apps, people. So be ready for that. And then,
And we will that. So next week is the day before 4th of July, but we're still going to be on. So make sure you tune in, check us out. I'm sure we'll have all of our fingers still, because it won't have been the 4th of July yet. So we'll see about that. Also, thanks to everybody for tuning in and listening. Ran long on this one, but I don't seem to think that anybody cares. You guys still hang out with us. In fact, our numbers seem to increase later in the show. So people are still listening and checking it out. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in. A lot of the comments come through our YouTube channel. So if you want to see the other comments that people are doing, tune into the YouTube channel. We appreciate you guys. What's that?
We even had one on Twitch tonight.
Yep. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching and sharing us with your friends, helping us grow, and God bless America.
Don't forget to visit Patriot Patch and join the Patch of the Month Club. Check out our Gaia affiliate link for up to 40% off. Also, don't forget to head over to Warren Medical Gear Outfitters and Colby Valve to see all their great gear. We're a proud part of the Firearms Radio Network. Got a comment or question? Send it to us through our webpage at firearmsradio.net or through our social media channels by searching for Off-Road Podcast. Also, you can listen to us live at overlandradio.com Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific. When off-road, please remember to have fun, tread lightly, be safe, and courteous. Thanks for listening.
I just thought of one more tent we didn't cover, and that's the really silly tents that connect to the back of your SUV, or the truck bed tents where it pops up in the bed of your truck, where you'd have to dung everything out of your rig so that you could set your tent up to sleep in the bed of your truck, and now you don't have the storage for all your gear.
Maybe we did that on purpose, but we didn't.
Subconsciously.
Yeah, I feel good about not bringing those up.